You have to cover all the developments, not only Indian but global. Okay, thank you.
So with your permission, shall we start?
Yeah, let them just leave
Yeah.
and then we can start. Okay, we can begin.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this post-policy press conference, first for the financial year 2026-27. We have with us Governor, Reserve Bank of India, Shri Sanjay Malhotra, along with Deputy Governors, Shri T. Ravi Shankar, Shri Swaminathan J. and Dr. Poonam Gupta. We also have with us Executive Directors, Shri R.L.K. Rao and Shri R. Kesavan, along with Dr. Ajit Ratnakar Joshi, Shri Sanjay Kumar Hansta, and Shri Indrani Bhattacharya. I also welcome my other colleagues from the Reserve Bank. Before we begin, we have a few housekeeping announcements. So there are totally 27 participants from the media, and I'll request the media persons to please stick to one question so that everyone gets a chance. I also request everyone to switch on the mic while speaking so that those watching the live telecast are able to hear clearly. And once you have finished speaking, please switch off the mic. Sir, with your permission, I will now call out the names. Thank you, sir. I will request Ms. Lata Venkatesh from CNBC TV 18 to please ask the first question. Lata, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bridgeraj and Governor. So what looked like the structural shift in this policy is that you all have started giving us core inflation number. So a couple of questions attached to that. Core is non-food, non-fuel. So if you are giving us that number, are you indicating that even if inflation headline goes up, but core doesn't, because that could be because of a change in fuel, you will not be moved? Are you trying to give us a message? And in that case, can you also give us the quarterly core breakup at some point in time, maybe from next time? The more important part is, if you look at your second half, while the full year average is 4.4, even then 1 percentage point above last year, the second half average core goes nearly to 5%. So should the market be prepared for a rate hike in the second half? As well, a word on liquidity, will be triple R return.
So first of all, let me compliment you to be, to have been, very nimble in your question. you have noted the change that we have made in this policy statement. I'm very happy, that you have noted that. This has been a request which has been there from the market participants. And so we thought that this was while, this has always been a factor. So in that sense, I would not say it is a shift. It's not a shift, in terms of monetary policy decision making, but it's only, we thought that this was the right time to do it because we did, the 5-yearly review. So there was a second 5-yearly review, which was completed. And so we thought that this is the time, if we have to do something about it and and give our projections on code, which we have been doing internally. And so that's why, these numbers have been given. Monetary policy is not preset course of action. As I have stated even earlier, even in the last statement, I think I made a mention of this, and even otherwise, that it's not, while, for us, it's the headline, which is the target, and we have to ensure, that it's headline that remains at target and within the band. That's the goal. That's the primary goal for us. But at the same time, the various components of inflation and where they are emanating from are also very important. And so that has been the consistent policy of the Monetary Policy Committee and of the RBI. And we'll continue to look into all components and then, take a call as to how we need to respond to the various components, while keeping in mind that the ultimate target is headline inflation and it's not anything else.
That first of all, there is an adverse scenario.
So as I said,
inflation you have increased by 50 basis. Growth you have brought down less. So it can be interpreted.
So that's why I said it's not a preset course of action. It's for the Monetary Policy Committee to decide, to take a call. These are the factors, which go into it, how, they are going to play out over a period of time. We will take a call. Things are evolving, so drastically, and so frequently every day. You yourself mentioned, 5:30 a.m. We got a pleasant news. Maybe not a complete surprise, but we got some pleasant news, and so we have to, be prepared. And so we will not be, in a position to say what the MPC is going to do in the next meeting.
Thank you, sir. We'll take some more questions from our left side before we come to this side. So for the next question, I'll request Shri Manojit Saha from Business Standard. Manojit, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. 1 year ahead, inflation forecast is 4.7%. You have given it here. So the real rate is just 50 basis point, while the neutral rate is seen around 1.5, 150 basis point. So are you falling beyond below the neutral rate? Number two, if you can also throw some light on the recent RBI steps to curb the rupee depreciation, the NOP cap, or banning banks offering contracts to clients. Are you satisfied with the rupee's behavior in the last few days? And now the scenario has changed completely. Is there there's a case to withdraw those limits and caps?
A lot of questions.
Two questions.
2-3 questions. So your second question first, which is, on the recent regulatory measures that we took with regard to the foreign exchange markets. You are all aware, and you may not have witnessed, but we did notice that in the last few weeks of last month, March, there was heightened volatility in the Forex markets. We saw that positions were being built up, leading to arbitrage positions between the non-deliverable forward markets. and the deliverable markets. In normal times, these linkages are important for an efficient price discovery. And that's why it has been our endeavor to widen and broaden, and make more liquid these markets. But when there is excessive volatility, when there is excessive building up of positions, this is only, increasing volatility and perhaps not helping in efficient price discovery. Such kind of measures are taken. Whether, and these are reactions to the specific market movements. These are not, in any sense, they are not signaling any structural change. We stand committed long term, we stand committed to the development, broadening and deepening of these markets, to the internationalization of the rupee. And so obviously, these are not measures which are going to remain there forever. As and when, we see that, and you have seen, so much of fluctuation, you can yourself see, how, the rupee has been so volatile. So it's basically, arising out of that. With respect to your question, first question on the neutral rate, while, first of all, we do not have, very precise numbers on the neutral rate, but there have been occasions when the real rate, because, first of all, you don't have a neutral rate, so what is the neutral rate, but so it's difficult to calculate, what the actual rate, should be. But real rates as of now are still high as of now. Looking ahead, as I said, there is so much of uncertainty to be acting on those today, and especially when the MPC noted, that when there is so much of uncertainty, number one, and moreover, it's coming from the supply side. Having noted that, that's why the MPC thought that this is a time to pause, wait for more data, and then take a call. Real rates today are still about 2% or so. They are not low. Going forward, how it happens, so much of uncertainty, we need to wait and watch.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will now request Anup Roy from Bloomberg to ask his question. Anup, please.
Thank you, sir. Sir, thank you for giving an elaborate answer on this rupee thing. So going back to your date call, the guidance in February policy that rates will remain low for longer, 9 to 12 months, barring any shock. The shock has come, but today we have some clarity also. So would you give that comfort again that rates will remain low if the shock is dissipated?
See, we are in a neutral state. Possibility either ways, anyways, cannot be ruled out. So it is quite possible that these low rates continue for a long time. As I mentioned, structurally, Indian economy is very strong, very resilient, very robust. Despite shocks, we are projecting 6.9%. Despite such a big shock, 6.9% real GDP growth. And you look across, independent of what other economies are growing, but if you look at relative to them, even better. So structurally, long-term macroeconomic fundamentals, because of various measures which the government has taken, which the RBI has taken, which various institutions have taken, remain to be very strong and continue to drive growth on the one hand, and at the same time keep price pressures contained. So uh, so it's quite possible that even in the short to the medium term, we will continue to have low rates. It's quite possible.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I will now request Ms. Hamsini Karthik from Money Control to ask her question. Hamsini, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Governor, and DTs, everyone. I'd like to drift a little from some of the macro points. And as your speech was concluding, the bank stocks really cheered your monetary policy today. You came up with a lot of leeway in the way that they can operate, etc. A couple of things I would like to understand from you, Governor, is you're open to reviewing the computation of net profit back to CRAR, and you're open to letting go or not, consider the 25% threshold on 25% increase threshold on GNPA. I'd like to understand what triggered this review process within RBI, and do you believe that you will see a reasonable amount of capital flowing into banks as a consequence to this? And the reason I'm also asking this question, I'd like to get a good answer to this question, is because in the last 6-8 months, more so, we've seen a lot of banks, almost like every 2 weeks, we've had some bad news or the other from banks, largely private banks. I take your point that this is not a systemic risk, but with the way banking is changing globally and also faster in India, do you see a need to enhance? Or rather, do you see a need to possibly tweak more on regulations, or you believe supervision can take care of these nagging pains that come up
So
every few
questions
times?
broadly, two
Connected questions.
quite different questions, but connected smartly. You have connected the two.
Banking questions.
Banking questions. So the first one is on capital related measures, that we announced today, two of them. The first one, I think both of them have been in the works for some time. They are not that way, surprises. The banks have been requesting us, and I think, NBFCs already had similar provisions. So it was time, that we aligned it with regard to the first change that has been made with regard to the calculation of CRAR. It does not change the calculation of net profit. It only changes the calculation of the capital adequacy. It is a better reflection of the capital that the banks have. Similarly, the second measure that has been announced with regard to the investment fluctuation reserve, that also does not, there has been a checkered history, if I may say so. It was there, then it was brought, it was withdrawn, then again, it was brought in. This is something which is not been there. It's not there in any other jurisdiction, and there was lack of clarity also, with regard to it. And moreover, as I mentioned in my statement, number of prudential regulations that we brought in, we did not feel, that there was a need with regard to it. On the second part of your question, which is perhaps relating to, some of the episodes that we witnessed in some of the private sector banks, I want to assure everyone through the media present over here that the banking system is very resilient. It's very safe, strong. Number of regulations, whether it's relating to conduct, governance, prudence, liquidity, all of them, along with, our supervisory framework, they keep the banking system very healthy and robust. These are episodes. There are, these will, unfortunately, these are bank specific. Not even bank specific. These are, these are more, in the nature of, crimes, or in nature of crimes. And while, we have to be vigilant and alert to them, the law enforcement mechanism, obviously, in our country will also take care of these. Want to add anything?
I think it's clear. Perfectly fine, sir. In terms of these are entity-specific developments, do not pose any systemic risk at this point in time. As we have clarified that as they play out, we deal with them on a bilateral basis as this play out. But as Governor said, that banking system as a whole remains resilient, and we continue to focus on improving the conduct related matters and governance related matters. And banks are by and large run on very professional lines. And any material supervisory concerns as and when it arises are dealt with on a event specific basis. If anything requires at a system level or a regulatory tweak, as you were alluding to, that we are not averse to taking such measures, but at this point in time, there is no event that warrants a macroprudential measure or a regulatory tweak. These are episodic. We will handle it on an individual basis.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sirs. I will now request Ms. Ekta Suri from Z Business to ask a question. Ekta, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
एकता की आपने बात मान लिया, आपने उनको जो है you have raised her of the order, huh?
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
I thought
sir.
so, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Sir,
आप
because,
खुद इतना अच्छा हिंदी में बोल रहे हैं, आप इतना अच्छा हिंदी में बोल रहे हैं.
sir, नहीं हिंदी चैनल नीचे आ जाते हैं, फिर वो सारे इंग्लिश वाले ऊपर आ जाते हैं, तो इस बार सच में रिक्वेस्ट सर आपने मान दी. थैंक यू सो मच, सर.
आपको ब्रिज को धन्यवाद देना पड़ेगा.
थैंक
Thank
यू
you,
सर. थैंक यू ब्रिज सर. सर मेरा सवाल सर, अभी हम बात कर रहे थे गवर्नेंस के ऊपर, सर उसके ऊपर है. सर अभी हाल ही में अगर हम फ्रॉड्स को साइड में कर दे, मैं नाम भी लूंगी, कोटक महिंद्रा बैंक या आईडीएफसी फर्स्ट, लेकिन अगर हम एचडीएफसी बैंक की भी बात करें, इस्तीफे ने बहुत हेडलाइन बनाई, वहां पर साफ लिखा गया कि ये एथिक्स और गवर्नेंस से रिलेटेड मैटर है. लेकिन जब उसके बाद पूछा गया जिन्होंने इस्तीफा दिया चेयरमैन जी से, तानु जी से, कि क्या इश्यूज हैं, वो खुलकर नहीं, उन्होंने कुछ भी नहीं बताया. यहाँ पर मेरा सवाल ये है, लेकिन हाँ इंटरव्यू में ये जरूर बोला कि मुझसे क्यों पूछे जा रहा है कि क्या इश्यूज है, आप खुद आत्म मंथन कीजिए. यहाँ पर मेरा सवाल ये है कि पैसे की बात पैसे से होती है, लेकिन यहाँ पर आपने इस्तीफा दे दिया, जो शेयर होल्डर है उसको नुकसान हुआ, उसकी शेयर की वैल्यू जो है वो नीचे गिर गई. बैंक का जो कस्टमर है उसके दिमाग में एक बीज बोया गया कि पता नहीं क्या ऐसे एथिक्स और गवर्नेंस वाले इश्यूज चल रहे हैं, मेरा पैसा सेफ है या नहीं है. तो सर अभी जैसे सर ने बोला कि इसके नियम थोड़े हम और सोचेंगे, तो क्या यहाँ पर क्या आरबीआई ने कोई मिनट्स में कोई ऐसी चीज पाई है जिसमें सच में एथिक्स और गवर्नेंस के कोई ऐसे इश्यूज है, लेकिन हाँ मीडिया तक नहीं पहुंचे, शेयर होल्डर और कस्टमर तक नहीं पहुंचे. दूसरा, अगर नहीं ऐसा कुछ पाया है, तो क्या कोई ऐसा नियम आएगा कि कल को कोई भी बोर्ड से रिलेटेड अगर इस्तीफा डाल रहा है और वो एक वेग भाषा का इस्तेमाल करके वो अगर जाना चाह रहे हैं तो जाए, लेकिन वेग भाषा का इस्तेमाल करके एक कस्टमर के दिमाग में ट्रस्ट का, मिसट्रस्ट का डाउट ना डाले, और दूसरा एक शेयर होल्डर जिसका कोई लेना देना नहीं इमोशन से, उसके शेयर की वैल्यू को गिरा कर ना जाए.
नहीं, जो पहला आपका प्रश्न है, देखिए हमने पहली बात, हम किसी बैंक स्पेसिफिक प्रश्न को हम यहाँ पे उसका उत्तर नहीं देते. लेकिन आपको मालूम है, ये सर्वविदित है, सबको मालूम है कि हमने प्रेस में अपना एक प्रेस नोट दिया था तब, जिसमें हमने ये कहा था कि हमारे हिसाब से कोई भी मटेरियल कंसर्न हमें, चाहे गवर्नेंस या कंडक्ट से संबंधित हो, वो नहीं है. तो उस बात को मैं यहाँ पे दोहराना चाहता हूँ कि कोई भी मटेरियल हमें कभी भी अपने सुपरविजन में या उनके रिकॉर्ड को देख करके ऐसा कोई गवर्नेंस और कंडक्ट से रिलेटेड मैटर हमारे सामने में नहीं आया.
Sir, you say that after seeing the minutes of the, after checking the minutes of the board meetings, or
जनरल जो हमारा सुपरविजन रहता है उसके अंदर में मिनट्स भी देखे जाते हैं, मिनट्स की प्रति भी हमारे पास में आती है. तो उन सबको देखने के बाद में ही ये हमने जो वक्तव्य, जो हमने अपना प्रेस नोटिस जो दिया, प्रेस नोट जो जारी किया, वो सबको, सभी चीजों को ध्यान में रखने के बाद में ही दिया है. क्या इसके लिए कोई और दिशा निर्देशों में, गाइडलाइंस, डायरेक्शंस में कोई और बदलाव करने की आवश्यकता है? आज के दिन में हमें ऐसा नहीं प्रतीत होता, लेकिन यदि ऐसा महसूस हुआ कि कहीं भी आगे जाकर के कोई बदलाव, कोई नया नियम निर्देश, सेबी के निर्देश वैसे इस संबंध में आप लोगों को मालूम है पहले से ही है, उसके ऊपर यदि कोई और निर्देश की आवश्यकता यदि हुई, महसूस हुई, तो उसके अंदर हम कभी भी पीछे नहीं हटेंगे।
कंटिन्यू वन मोर सर, क्योंकि एक बड़ा बैंक था, आपने स्टेटमेंट भी दी कि यहाँ पर बैंक स्टेबल है, लेकिन अगर कोई छोटा बैंक होता और इस्तीफे के बाद लोग डरकर अपने पैसे विड्रॉ करवाने निकल जाते, तो सर उस समय तो अनस्टेबल सिचुएशन आ जाती। तो मेरा एक ये भी सवाल था कि आपने किसी को भी रिजाइन करना है तो वो रिजाइन कीजिए, लेकिन इमोशंस पर गोलमोल बातें कर कर वैल्यू गिराना शेयर की, मेरे दिमाग में ये मिस्ट्रस्ट डालना कि मेरा पैसा सेफ है कि नहीं, सर वो किस हद तक, सर उस पर आप क्या कहेंगे?
देखो, जैसा मैंने कहा, मैं किसी एक स्पेसिफिक बैंक या वक्तव्य के बारे में नहीं कहूँगा। मैं कहूँगा कि जो भी कानून है वो बिल्कुल स्पष्ट कानून है और उसमें हमें नहीं प्रतीत होता कि आज के दिन में कोई बदलाव की आवश्यकता है। यदि हुई तो निश्चित रूप से हम उसके ऊपर में विचार करें।
धन्यवाद सर. Sir, we'll now take a few questions from the right side. I'll request Sangeeta Mehta from the Economic Times to ask a question. Sangeeta, please.
Thank you. Sir, what is the crude oil price assumption that RBI has taken to arrive at the inflation projection of 4.6%?
For this year, $85 to a barrel.
For the full year?
For the full year on an average, $85.
And so
it's now, and next year is, I think, 75. 75.
And sir, how long is your assumption of the crisis to last, West Asia crisis? Because one of the
It's very
comments which is
difficult,
there,
you know, there is no, assumption that what feeds into is the price, the price is more important for us, and some of the supplies, some of the critical supplies. So, and the war, actually it is more, the supply disruption. The war, you are aware, that the Ukraine war is going on, but it is having, one can't say that it's having no impact, but it's having negligible impact. So what's important is that how long, what are going to be the prices of some of these commodities which are important for us, especially energy, and what is also important is how long, this supply disruption is going to be there. It's very difficult to say. So now there is an announcement that it will be the Strait of Hormuz, for example, will be opened.
because one of the comments, the statement you have said that is if initial supply shock can potentially transform into demand shock over a medium term, if the restoration of supply chain is delayed. So this medium term is referred to what time frame?
This will be many months, many months. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'll request media participants to please stick to one question so that everyone gets a chance. I'll now request Jasprit Kalra from Thomson Reuters to ask his question. Jasprit, please.
Quick question on the FX side, the measures that were taken. Of course, they have helped stabilize the rupee and the arbitrage positions that you highlighted. In some corners of the market, especially amongst foreign investors, it's also been interpreted as a soft capital control, with more could be coming down the line that could hurt returns. And they've also raised concerns about how it makes it harder for them to hedge their currency exposures in the local market. When you take these measures, what sort of impact assessment is done on that level? And has the RBI reached out to or communicated with any investors to reassure their concerns, or do you plan to do that?
No, see, that's what I just mentioned, that these are specific to the market movements that we observe. These are not structural changes. We stand committed. I'm repeating, I don't have more to add, unfortunately, to what I said, but I'll still repeat, which is that we stand committed to the further deepening, widening of these markets, and the further internationalization of the rupee. These should be seen as actions which help, I would say, in better market development, rather than because this we found, was quite speculative, and in some sense, bordering on, I mean, speculation, right? So it was more of, speculation leading to, higher volatility. So that's why these measures have been taken. And yes.
Thank you,
Want to
sir.
add anything?
Yes, I mean, these measures have to be seen in the context of this event, this episode, which, as most of you probably know already by now, was leading to disruptive volatility. More importantly, this was leading to a drying up of artificial drying up of supply in the market, which was affecting prices. Although the transactions were arbitrage transactions, they were affecting local prices. Our objective of doing this was to cool that phase down. So the long-term commitment still remains to rupee internationalization, to having one global market and all that. On the issue that you raised, whether foreign investors can hedge here, nothing has been done which disables them from hedging. They can all hedge. So those things are also well in place. We will look at how the market responds to this. You would see that we initially just announced that these positions need to be wound down, right? I mean, by limiting the position. Then we studied the market behavior, and we understand that in a market, market makers or authorized dealers have privileged position, right? And they behave responsibly. We have seen how much they have added to the depth. Sometimes you get carried away. So we thought an indication should quieten things down. We did not see that. We did not see that. We saw that these positions were, being assigned here and there. So we took the remaining measures to contain those. This is a very specific, specific measure that is intended to contain this particular episode.
Thank you, sirs. I will now request Ankur Mishra from ET Now to ask his question. Ankur, please.
So continuing with the same topic, many of the banks have been complaining about MTM losses due to the measure which you had taken. I want to understand when you see particularly when we spoke to the market participants, they also mentioned that till 2020, NDF view was different for Reserve Bank of India, and it later got changed. Now, if you're saying this is specifically to arrest the rupee volatility, is it a fair understanding that in very near term, once you can see the currency stabilizing, the limit may be once more revised based on the situation? And also, I mean, the NDF view remains the same from Reserve Bank of India. Also, today you have announced about the IFR requirement of the banks. Wanted a little more elaboration on the thoughts behind that.
So first question, I think, we answered. Only repeat that, this was in response to this particular episode. This is not permanent or structural. So going forward, we'll see how the markets are behaving, and appropriately, a call will be taken at an appropriate time, to review them. Second question, IFR, I'll request Swaminathan, Mr. DG Swaminathan, to throw more light on it. Basically, changes in the investment, like, now the bond yields are very high, and sometimes they can go up, they can go down. And so that has implications for their profitability. Then the banks come back to us saying, please allow us to stagger these losses. So we had come out with the concept of an investment fluctuation reserve, which to some extent, mitigates. But then we feel that it is, the market prices, mark-to-market prices, should be factored in, because that's the correct position of the banks. And so that's why if they price it as per the markets, then the very need of this fluctuation reserve, goes away. you can probably, throw more light
True, sir.
on some of the historical details of why this was first introduced and removed. And then again, it was brought in.
Now, as Governor earlier mentioned, also this had a checkered history. It was introduced under certain context, withdrawn, reintroduced. And there was also a lack of harmony across the bank types. Different banks had different guidelines that were applicable to them. Essentially, it was required or thought to be relevant because it is better to keep some reserves in good time. So this was to be created as a below the line appropriation item out of the profits that would have been generated during the year by sale of investments so that it can be used up when it is necessary. Subsequently, two significant developments. One is that in terms of our capital adequacy norms, guidelines have been completely revamped, and also that, as you are aware, 2 years ago, we issued a comprehensive guidelines in terms of valuation and disclosure of valuation of investment book. So having implemented that, this IFR is considered no longer relevant. It does not in any manner change the value at which investment book has to be reflected in the accounting books. And also it does not change the profit calculation in any manner. This was an appropriation item considered no longer relevant in the given circumstances. So has been done away with more in the nature of a simplification. And third thing is that there was also a different level of compliance across the banks. It was not uniformly complied with as well. And there were supervisory observations arising out of difference in compliance levels. So by removing that particular requirement, we are making it a little more easy in terms of complying with the applicable norms. So it's at this point in time considered no longer relevant. Maybe we can offline clarify to you more in detail. No, because this was a below the line appropriation item, so it wouldn't have made a significant difference. 2%. Requirement was 2%. Yes.
Thank you, sirs. I will now request K. Ramkumar from Hindu Business Line to ask his question. Ramkumar, please.
Thank you. Are you seeing any kind of signs of incipient stress build up in the banking system because of this supply chain disruption, high energy prices, and weak external demand? And another question is about whether the transmission of the earlier rate cuts is complete into the lending rates and deposit rates. Yeah, thank you.
So insofar as from the bank side, we are not seeing any systemic concerns with regard to their profitability and their health. Yes, there will be pockets, there will be sectors which will be hit because of the present crisis. Again, it will depend on the extent. The government has done a wonderful job as of now in trying to secure these inputs and reduce the supply chain disruptions. It will all depend on how long this continues. In the meanwhile, you are aware that we have already extended the time limit from 31st March to 30th January for the longer period of exports proceeds to be repatriated to 450 days till 30th June. We have done that. We'll see going forward, but as of now, there is no systemic risk. What is the second question? Transmission, I think this there, in my statement as a footnote perhaps, against 125 basis points, about 90 basis points has been, is the transmission, that we have seen on the lending side. Similarly, on the deposit side, it's more than 100. So there's been good, satisfactory, as I mentioned, transmission.
Thank you, sir. I will request media persons to please stick to one question. I will now request Piyush Shukla from NDTV Profit to ask his question. Piyush, please.
Good afternoon, Governor DGs. Thank you, sir. Sir, one payment bank CEO was jailed and he's been released, and the bank is in transition to SFB. Does this development affect their SFB? We have given an in-principle approval to them. Does this affect that progression? Will the bank have to, has the bank sought reappointment of the CEO's reappointment? Has the bank sought that? Also, in terms of the upper layer category of NBFCs, when will be the next list updated, and will Tata Sons be a part of it?
See, specific, regulated entities specific questions, we don't ask. The next list, we are coming up with a framework. We are coming up with a new framework for the NBFCs. Very soon, you should see that. New framework for categorization of NBFCs into upper, middle layer, etc. You'll see.
So just this bank.
Very soon, very quickly we should do it. Hopefully
This
this month.
payment bank has received in-principle approval for conversion to SFB since he's a KMP. Just some clarity, sir, whether this affects that.
I'm sorry, specific bank questions, we don't answer.
So that draft norm, that will be a draft norm or final circular, that NBFC?
Generally, we do a draft. I mean, this case we will see. We'll take a call.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we'll now take some questions from the left side. I will request Falakna Syed from Deccan Chronicle to ask a question. Falakna, please.
So is this a growth assumption of 6.9%, isn't it too optimistic, given that supply chain normalization, especially gas supply, takes quite a long time, and it will have ramifications outside also the supply. Also, the level of oil that we will have will be higher than when the war started. So isn't this growth of projections too optimistic?
No, we don't think, that it is too optimistic. However, we have mentioned that, there are more risks to the downside rather than to the upside, and that would happen primarily, I would say, for the reasons that you are mentioning. If, there is a prolonged disruption in the supplies, which we hope should normalize sooner than later, that can put pressure on the assessment of growth of 6.9%. This is a reduction, in comparison to last year, of about 70 basis points. So it's not small.
Okay. Sir, can you share data on the last 7 months? 7 months back, you had launched the unclaimed deposits scheme, wherein banks were given a kind of incentive.
We'll give the data. I don't have it, offhand.
Okay.
You have it? You have some data. Why don't you then give it?
The last 7 months, how much amount has come back to the depositors?
There were two events. One is that Aapki Punji Aapka Adhikar scheme, there was campaign for 3 months from October to December by DFS, Government of India, and also RBI. So that led to a lot of unclaimed deposits, being returned to the claimants. And also we have come out with incentive scheme to the banks. So that also helped. It's around the same time. So both these initiatives actually led to a lot of retaining of the amounts. I can tell you the figures. So average earlier from April 2025 to September, average refunds were around 180 crore. Now, post this campaign, that is from October till now, the average has gone up to 760 crore per month. So to that extent, it's quite a jump. And even in incentive also, around 600 crores we are paying to the banks for doing aggressive tracing of the customers and then retaining the amounts. So these are the figures. Yeah.
Per month.
Per month, average monthly claims.
Thank you, sirs. I now request Krishna Kaushik from Financial Times to ask his question. Krishna, please.
Good afternoon, sir. So I want to ask about the foreign exchange reserves. There's a drop of about 40 billion over a five-week period since the conflict started. And the FCA down about 550 billion at an average of 80 billion per month of import that covers like a 7-month import. So at what point does it start becoming a concern for you?
We have sufficient forex reserves. It's not a matter of concern for us at all. 11 months of cover is what we have. If you look at, I mean, that's the standard metrics. This is sufficient. Government has taken a number of measures. We believe this year, minus the war, would have been much better. With the war, add some pressure, as I noted even in my MPC statement. But on the capital account side, even on the current account side, a lot of these agreements that have come in place, major economies, EU should also get implemented, hopefully soon. UK is already in place. Other economies, Canada is in pipeline. All of them should help us both on current account and capital account. Similarly, a lot of investments coming in. You saw it in the financial sector. In tech sector, a lot of announcements, on FDI. FDI, gross FDI, doing very well, almost, 20%, 18% to be precise, is the growth till, I think, till February. Till February, the growth is $18 billion. Next year, if not this, we should touch hopefully $100 billion. I don't expect repatriations to have the same accelerated growth because of how the equity valuations are today. Similarly, ODI, looking at the overall uncertainty in the world. So capital account seems very robust. Current account seems to be quite manageable. So I'm not at all concerned with the BOP position of our country.
But so the net FDI is quite low, and even the FII outflow has been quite high. It's been about $12 billion in the last 1 month.
Yeah, so that's, as I mentioned, this year we expect the repatriations to slow down, the ODI also, to kind of remain the same or slow down. Gross FDI, to continue growing. And so as a result, not only gross, we made an improvement even this year in net FDI. It's about $5-6 billion. By the time we end the year, we'll have the figures. It's better than last year. And I mean, last year is better than the last year. So, and this year should be much better than last year. FPI outflows also, to the extent that we have seen last year, it's mostly, on the equity side. And we are hopeful, that we should get, good flows on the debt side and not so high outflows as last year on the equity side.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. No. I think we do need to continue the good work that has been done on both the current account and on the capital account. And that makes me confident that the BOP position should going forward improve. Last 2 years, and even this year, especially because of this shock and elevated oil prices, the deficit it's not certain, we don't know as of now. 2 years, certainly, it has been deficit. But the government has taken proactive measures. And if anything, going forward, I'm confident that this will only, improve and help us improve both our current account. This, as they say, never let a crisis go waste. This was almost a crisis. And so going forward, this will only help us in pointing out, some of the areas that we need to improve. Self-sufficiency in oil has been, is something, that we need to work on. The government has taken proactive steps. Production of oil and gas has been ramped up. Then there are measures there will have to be, an accelerated adoption of EVs, accelerated, renewable energy, etc. All these things, which the government is already doing, need to ramp these up so that imports, we get, more self-sufficient on oil. The import burden reduces. Exports, government is already proactively looking at, expanding through various schemes and through various FTAs and through, the domestic manufacturing programs. And so the current account, and similarly, on the capital account, a lot of work, that needs to be done. I think this only points, this only leads us, this only, that way an opportunity for us to recognize this and continue, and accelerate some of the works, which have been in the pipeline to improve our BOP position.
So no special FCNRB for NRIs.
These are specific things. I don't think, that we have, so these are temporary measures. FCNRB is a temporary, it will, these are not, structural changes. I was more talking about, the structural changes which are important and which is this kind of a, hopefully, a near crisis, only helps us in recognize and fast track some of the work that has already been underway for quite a few number of years now.
Thank you, sir. I will now request Ben Jose from the New Indian Express to ask his question. Ben, please.
Thank you, sir. This is again about the FPI sell-off and the volatility in the rupee. FPI say that they are selling out because rupee is falling, and Forex traders say that rupee is falling because FPIs are selling. Is what is the how do you, is there a structural issue that the rupee faces? Because FY25 we were the worst Asian currency, 26 we were the worst Asian currency. If you take out the March depreciation because of the Iran war, again we lost more than 5%. So is it a BOP minus BOP for the third year, or increasing CAD for the third year? What is the structural issue that, okay, at least the funds are selling out? Foreign funds are, investors are, foreign investors are selling our equity and the debt.
You have to ask them.
No, but
as I mentioned to you, the macroeconomic fundamentals of the country are very strong. FPI flows are volatile. They will see where, they can make short-term money, and they will flow into those pockets. It's not only India that they are looking at various jurisdictions over a shorter horizon than, the FDI. And so I think it's only a matter of time that whether it is FPI or whether it is FDI, both should come to India and be part of this growth story. I think, as I've mentioned earlier, India's macroeconomic fundamentals are on a very, very strong wicket for a number of reasons. Because of the policies, because of the demographics, because of the urbanization, because of the financial conditions that are there, the stability that we offer. It's a matter of time that those people, who want to make Those who are patient, those who want to make long-term money, they will certainly come to India. Those, who are in for a quick buck, they will come and go.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I will now request Sri Lalatendu Mishra from the Hindu to ask his question. Lalatendu, please.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Governor. It was a sleepless night, and I don't know whether you and the MPC members are the same. Till this gentleman tweeted that he has stopped the war for the time being.
Sorry?
My question.
Stop the war for the time being.
My question is about the remittances, sir. There are concerns that the remittances have come down. What you have seen in the month of March, and if you can put it into perspective, sir, how important are the remittances from the West Asia countries to?
Madam, you want to take this?
Our remittances actually come from a rather diverse set of regions in which the share of the Gulf countries has declined over time. When I talk about the diversity, it's not just the geographical diversity, it's also the kind of skill pool we have across different countries. We have relatively low skilled, medium skilled, and high skilled migrant workers who send these remittances. So if we look at the past 10, 15 years of data, they have moved only in one direction, which is the upward direction. So we are not anticipating a dent to remittances, especially given the tweet that you talked about, if the crisis is going to be resolved very soon. We anticipate actually the demand for migrant workers will in fact increase from this region, which will help the remittances further. So with your permission, I'll just add to something that the gentleman asked on the relative attractiveness of India as an investment destination is going to increase this year because of three factors. One is valuations have become more attractive. You would agree with that. Exchange rate makes investments into the country more attractive, and a higher nominal GDP growth will help with earnings as well. So this year, as Sir said, is looking quite promising on some of those.
Can I just ask a clarification? The IPO last year was the record, almost 1.8 trillion, but almost 65% of the IPO money was the FPOs, which the foreign investors took out. Has it contributed to the anyway to the capital outflow from the country, or and adding to the rupee pain and both
question? I was just, so I think we need to go back.
Obviously, see, that's what I mentioned. That's what I mentioned, that because of high valuations or good valuation, whatever way you may call it, a lot of money went out in form of repatriations. The equity valuations have now corrected. So I don't see repatriations to that extent this year, and that should certainly help them.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, madam. I will now request Nachiket Kelkar from Business Today to ask his question. Nachiket, please.
Good afternoon, Governor. One step that you have announced today is the comprehensive review of directions to how bank boards operate. So what prompted that? And when we are talking about bank boards, we keep talking about the issues with private sector banks, but we continue to see issues with the cooperative banks as well. Every other week, RBI keeps on penalizing some of the other cooperative bank. Is there something that the RBI plans with respect to that as well, on maybe more regulations or whatever?
Two things. See, one, it's important to review these things because over a period of time, because when one is issuing an instruction, one is not looking at it comprehensively. So if you are issuing a instruction relating to a loan product, you give some instructions relating to the responsibilities that the banks should have. Similarly, on the capital side, on the risk side, on the prudential measures for various aspects, and you have a number of circulars. On each circular, you prescribe the duties for the board. When you're doing that, you are looking at only, that individual circular or direction without realizing as to what the overall ask is from the bank boards and how much pressure it puts on their time. And so that's why, it's important to review them. One had been hearing from the boards that a lot of operational matters also are coming to the bank boards, as a result of which they are not able to concentrate on real policy and strategic matters. And so that's why, there's a second reason, that why, we have brought this about.
Sir, on cooperative
thank you, sir.
banks,
See, similar regulations are there for, cooperative banks also. Similar kind of regulations will be there for cooperative banks. It will cover the entire sector, all segments of the banking sector. Of course, the regulations and the requirements, for different segments will be different.
Thank you, sir. So we'll now take a few questions from the right side. I'll request Mayur Shetty from the Times of India to ask his question. Mayur, please.
Thank you, sir. Governor, in the past crisis, whenever the RBI took extraordinary measures to contain rupee volatility, it was invariably followed by the monetary tightening. This time you said that the price is different. India's macroeconomic situation is very strong. So does it mean that you don't see any tightening requirement if there's any fresh bout of volatility?
See, this, as has been mentioned, this is this measure that we took with regard to the foreign exchange markets was with respect to the specific developments. It is not, a structural change or a structural shift on the one hand of our policy and at the same time, on our view on the rupee. So it will not be fair to compare this measure with, some of the periods, that you are comparing with.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Subhana Sheikh from Mint to ask a question. Subhana, please.
Good afternoon, Governor. Governor, I wanted to ask the measures on the rupee that you had taken very recently. Those were quite decisive measures. Is there a similar intent to address such speculative flows in the overnight index market as well, in the interest rate derivative markets as well? Because there has been a growing presence of offshore hedge fund flows there, and that has also been impacting the GSET market as well. I mean, OIS is now expecting 3 to 4 rate hikes this year. So any intent or any measures to moderate flows there? Also, is 7%, is over 7% 10-year GSEC yield, is the RBI comfortable with that? And one last, sir. Last time you had mentioned that 2 to 3% depreciation in the rupee is expected in any financial year. This year we have seen quite a lot of depreciation, 11% in FY26, and so far 5% since the war has begun.
Many questions,
So how comfortable are you with the rupee depreciation in FY27, sir?
See, what I mentioned was, let me correct you, that 2 to 3% is the average depreciation. I did not say, please,
right,
that this is something that I expect. There have been years, when we have depreciated much less. There have been years, when we have appreciated. So it's not to say, that every year, there will be a depreciation of 2 to 3%. That's the average. The average is about 3.5%. And so that's what, that's just the average depreciation. OIS, is a very, very thin market. It's a very thin market. We not much should be read into it, is all I would say. Not 3, 4, 5, whatever cuts. It's a very thin market. Please don't go by it. You asked, comfort, where the comfort is. See, these prices are determined, whether it is the Forex markets, whether it is the bond yields, etc. These are determined by the markets. We have deep markets, for the government bonds, some of the benchmark government bonds, and we let the markets determine their prices. I think I remembered and answered all your questions.
I'll request media persons to please ask only one question. Thank you, sir. I'll now request Ms. Shweta Roy from the Banker FT to ask a question. Shweta.
Hello, sir. So I wanted to understand, although we are hearing a lot of reports about the temporary ceasefire that's happening right now, but the supply chain disruptions that have already done and are going to likely for a few months. I want to understand in this context, how is RBI going to maintain stability going forward?
I did not, sorry, get your question. How do we maintain the stability?
How are you going to maintain stability going forward, given the environmental stress right now? Even though, because it is a temporary ceasefire that we are looking at.
Yeah, so we are, alert all the times, and whatever needs to be done, whether it is Forex market, government securities markets, banks, financial NBFCs, monetary policy, we are alert. I want to assure you, and financial stability is the first objective, the primary objective for us, followed by price stability and growth. We continue to do whatever is required in the best interest of the economy and ensure financial stability.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Shama Mishra from Doordarshan to ask a question. Shama, please.
नमस्कार सर सर नाउ वी सीइंग ये 2 हफ्तों का सीज फायर है व्हाट इफ टुमारो थिंग्स स्टॉप इसके अनुसार अगर हम देखें अगर कल सब चीजें नॉर्मलाइज हो जाती हैं फिर भी हमारे देश में ये इकोनॉमी में इसका असर कितने समय तक हम देखते रहेंगे और नॉर्मलाइज होने के लिए चीजें कितना समय लग सकता है
देखो बहुत सी अनिश्चितता है बहुत सी अनसर्टेनिटी है ये मैं बिल्कुल भी आपको इसका जवाब नहीं दे पाऊंगा क्योंकि ये हमें मालूम नहीं है कि मान लीजिए कि जैसे सीज फायर हो गया और वॉर खत्म हो गई और स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज मान लीजिए खुल भी गया और जैसा कि अनाउंस किया गया है वो खुल जाएगा हम उसके लिए जो है होपफुल हैं पर कितना डैमेज हुआ है मालूम नहीं है कितना समय लगेगा कुछ फैसिलिटीज जो हैं बंद हुई हैं वहाँ पे गल्फ में उनको वापस से चालू करने में कितना समय लगेगा ये भी हमें मालूम नहीं है तो ये कह पाना आज के दिन में लेकिन हमने सभी चीज़ों को जो हमारा जो अनुमान है उसके हिसाब से हमने जो आपको आंकड़े दिए हैं जो बेस्ट हमारा एस्टिमेट हो सकता था वो हमने आपको दिए हैं और हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि उससे बेहतर ही स्थिति अगर ये सीज फायर होता है और डिसरप्शन जो हुआ है और सप्लाईज वापस से रिस्टोर होती हैं पूरी तो उससे हमारे को बहुत इन्फ्लेशन में और ग्रोथ में दोनों में बेहतर आंकड़े हमारे को मिलने चाहिए
धन्यवाद सर I will now request Mahesh Naik from Financial Express to ask his question. Mahesh, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. In the past few days, we saw the weighted average call rates going below the SDF. Will RBI, and this month we see sufficient liquidity, if the rates fall below the SDF, are we going to see any deployment of VRRR? And second is, what is the view on gold prices, which is internationally being very, do you see it being too euphoric and impacting also the Indian domestic market? Thank you.
View on gold, I don't know. I don't have any, view on gold. Forex reserves, we maintain part of it in gold, but we don't have a view on gold as to how, it's going to play out. Your first question was VRRR. See, I have been on record. We have said that these are two different things. And it's quite possible VRRR and the durable liquidity that we provide, they are two different things to address two different issues. One is durable, the other is transient. Our attempt, of course, is to keep the walker as near as possible to the policy rate. However, at times like this, when there is so much of an uncertainty, we want to give the comfort to the banks that liquidity will not be, in deficit. And so that's why we have allowed it to be in the lower end. So it's still within, the LAF. It's not outside the LAF, and it's only, to give them the comfort. It is not any signal for, a rate reduction or anything. It should not be taken as that. And we don't. What will happen tomorrow? We can't say. But as I have stated, we'll give sufficient and proactively and preemptively whatever liquidity is required to the banks for meeting, the needs of the banking system.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we'll take the remaining questions from the left side. I'll request Ashish Agashe from PTI to ask his question.
Thank you so much, sir. There have been these reports about some relief packages coming from the government side. So have there been any conversations? What would be RBI's prescriptions really, maybe targeted help to some sectors or something which might be in the works? Also, secondly, sir, how does RBI look at the farm loan waiver announcement done by Maharashtra, given the entire focus on credit culture preservation perspective from that lens, sir?
See, the first question, I'll only say that we will not be found wanting, as has been the case, as has been our history, going back to COVID or later the Ukraine war, and recently, this particular war, the trade-related uncertainties, etc. Whatever is required, we will do that. Waivers, loan waivers, which have been announced by certain governments, we always we are of the view that generally, loan waivers, if they have to be there, they should be targeted. They should not be a general kind of a loan waiver. But if there are circumstances which merit because of any natural calamity or distress, in those kinds of times, there are relief measures which are announced. We have a framework, in fact, for such kind of reliefs to be accorded in consultation with the banks.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Saurabh Pandey from IANS to ask his question. Saurabh, please.
गुड आफ्टरनून गवर्नर सर। सबसे पहले सर, जिस तरह से हम आजकल का जो ट्रेंड देख पा रहे हैं, एआई की तरफ हम बहुत तेजी से मार्च कर रहे हैं, तो क्या एआई ड्रिवन फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज जो हैं उन्हें रेगुलेट करने के लिए हम किसी फ्रेमवर्क लाने के विचार कर रहे हैं? और सर दूसरा सवाल ये है कि हमारी जो डिजिटल रूपी है CBDC, उस पर क्या स्टेटस है सर? हम उसका रोल आउट और अडॉप्टेशन कब तक देख पाएंगे, या फिर अभी तक हम इसे जो है ट्रैक्शन और एक्सपेरिमेंट फेज में ही देख पा रहे हैं?
Okay. I thought
because I've been answering this exact question for almost a year now.
I thought this is in Hindi.
I'll probably do a mix of Hindi and English. ये पहले से भी हम बोले आ रहे हैं कि CBDC एक इनोवेशन है जिसका टाइम आ चुका है. This is the future of payments, but there is the right time to go launch it. And ये पहले भी बोल चुके हैं कि right time सिर्फ इस पे डिपेंड नहीं करता है कि कितना तैयार हम हैं, in terms of our infrastructure and our policies and our systems, but कितना तैयार दूसरे countries हैं, क्योंकि CBDCs का biggest advantage cross border sector में है. तो आप जल्दी लॉन्च कर दो, दूसरा कंट्री लॉन्च किया नहीं है, आप क्रॉस बॉर्डर एस्टैब्लिश नहीं कर सकते हो. दैट इज नॉट अ सिचुएशन वी वांट टू बी इन, व्हिच इज व्हाई वी हैव, जैसे पहले से बोले आ रहे हैं, वी आर ग्रेजुअली मूविंग, गेटिंग द टेक्नोलॉजी राइट, गेटिंग द यूज केसेस राइट. जैसे आजकल बहुत सारे गवर्नमेंट डायरेक्ट पेमेंट्स के लिए ये यूज हो रहे हैं, तो वो सब भी हम कर रहे हैं. प्रोग्रामेबिलिटी, व्हिच इज द डिस्टिंग्विशिंग फीचर ऑफ CBDCs vis-a-vis other payment instrument, programmability डेवलप कर रहे हैं, वो सब प्रोसेस चल रहे हैं. As far as users, वो धीरे धीरे बढ़ रहा है. अभी 1 करोड़ यूजर्स हैं, टोटल ट्रांजैक्शंस करीब 15 करोड़ हो चुके हैं, about 34,000। वो धीरे धीरे बढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन कोई जल्दी नहीं है कि हम अभी लॉन्च करें। दैट्स एज फार एज CBDC इज कंसर्न। AI का यही है कि अभी AI यूज जो चल रहा है, हमारे तरफ से फिनटेक डेवलपमेंट के तरफ से हम फोकस इसी पे कर रहे हैं कि जितना यूजर्स हैं उसका, उनको सैंडबॉक्स मिले। सो वी आर थिंकिंग ऑफ एन AI सैंडबॉक्स, जहाँ क्यूरेटेड डेटाबेसेस उनको मिले, जहाँ वो टेस्ट कर सकें, ट्रेन कर सकें। हमारा फोकस फिनटेक की तरफ से उसी तरफ है। कोई रेगुलेशन ऑफ AI सेक्टर कुछ नहीं है। रेगुलेटरी अप्रोच हमारा ये रह चुका है कि टेक्नोलॉजी सेक्टर में हम SRO बेस्ड अप्रोच लेंगे, ताकि एक दूसरे से बात कॉन्स्टेंटली होते रहे। थैंक यू। 34,000 crores.
Dhanyawad, sir. I'll now request Akash Mandal from Indian Express to ask his question. Akash, please.
क्या आपका छूट गया कुछ?
यस यस सर, जो आपने AI सैंडबॉक्स की बात की, अगर आप उसमें उस बारे में विस्तार से कुछ बता पाएंगे।
अलग से बता देंगे,
ऑफलाइन आपको। ठीक है।
Good afternoon, Governor, sir. You referred to our macroeconomic fundamentals remaining relatively strong, resilient despite the risks posed by the West Asia conflict. Do you see the credit growth across the banking sector being significantly affected if the conflict prolongs, especially because it's been on an upward trend recently? So do you see any significant downward risk there?
No, I don't see a significant risk. It's been growing, and certain sectors may, but it's very small. Overall, I think, because especially, retail, services, even agriculture, etc., all sectors, MSME, strong growth. We expect this growth to continue.
Thank you, sir. We'll take the remaining questions from the right side. I'll request Aryan Khanna from Informist Media to ask his question. Aryan, please.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. I wanted to take this opportunity to ask a broader monetary policy question, which is, in terms of FY26, we've had a lower rate of CPI headline inflation. Does that give you comfort that you can see through a supply shock or a shock on higher inflation in the first half or even the second half of FY27 as you are projecting? And then also, do you see monetary policy as a tool for macro financial stability? For example, in the case of CAD being under pressure, maybe during the year later on. Thank you.
See, we have given our projections for CPI already quarter-wise. We have given that. So that has taken into account not only, what the inflation was or was last year or is now, and what is the outlook. So whatever we wanted to say is there in those in terms of the numbers. Everything is given over there. Whether monetary policy is a tool, theoretically yes it is. Theoretically yes it is a tool. I mean, because financial stability is the bedrock. But the question whether is the right it's time to use it. That's a different question. That's a different question. We don't think as of now, there is a use case. But yes, monetary policy is certainly, to be used, in terms in stabilizing, in providing financial stability.
So just to clarify my first question, it was not on the projections, but considering that inflation is at say 2.2% for FY26, so does that, like, as policymakers, does that give you a bit more time to act? As you have been saying, earlier, that it's been giving you time to cut, it's giving you room to cut. So does it give you time to act in case you need to hike rates later on in this year?
The present, does it have an implication for the policy? I mean, yeah, it does have some. See, we are forward looking, as we say in monetary policy, right? We do say, and that is how it is, because we have to act, because monetary policy acts with a lag. So yes, while it is forward looking, But to say that, the present doesn't have any context and any meaning, no. Because what the present is, because the future is, is still a forecast. The present is actual, right? So it does have implications.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Saurav Mukherjee of ANI to ask his question. Saurav, please.
So, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I have only one question with you. One question for you, sir. With surplus liquidity but rising deposit rates due to high credit deposit gap, how does the RBI access monetary policy transmission for especially what are the further liquidity measures planned? Thank you.
See, it's there in my statement, and I also mentioned we will provide whatever liquidity is needed for the banking system proactively and preemptively. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll now request Jeevan Bhava, sir of Akashvani to ask his question. Jeevan, please.
नमस्कार सर। सर, ये जो वेस्ट एशिया कन्फ्लिक्ट है उसकी वजह से जो लोग त्रस्त है उनके लिए गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से विभिन्न उपाय योजना किए जा रहे हैं, अलग अलग पैकेजेस या कुछ इंसेंटिव्स दिए जा रहे हैं. सो द आरबीआई इज प्रिपेयरिंग समथिंग और आरबीआई हैज प्लान समथिंग.
जैसा मैंने बताया कि एक उपाय तो हमने पहले से ही कर दिया है, जो कि प्री शिपमेंट और पोस्ट शिपमेंट क्रेडिट के संबंध में है. वो हमने ऑलरेडी उसको लागू कर दिया. और भी जो भी कोई आवश्यकता होगी निश्चित रूप से उसको भी हम ध्यान से उसका अध्ययन करके और जो भी उपाय की आवश्यकता होगी वो हम उसको जरूर लागू करेंगे.
धन्यवाद. I now request Shri Somijit Saha of Nikkei to ask the final question of this press conference. Somijit, please.
Thank you for the opportunity, Governor. So, by chance, RBI has become the first major central bank to, give out a policy decision right after the ceasefire. So we wanted so we were looking for a wider comment. So this is a two-parter. The first thing we wanted to get from you is if you have an opinion on what the ceasefire means for Asian and emerging markets economies widely, if you would like to give a wider opinion on that. And the second part is because even you have mentioned this many times, including in today's statement, that India is better placed compared to some of the other economies when it comes to shocks like, tariffs or the crisis that we are still going through probably. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more? What are the advantages and how you're, coming to that kind of a statement?
So, I mean, obviously it is, no war is good for anyone. So other than, maybe the defense manufacturers or, right. So the war is not good. So it is certainly, for everyone, it's the ceasefire, hopefully, it becomes permanent. It's good. We are all aware. Second question, your second question, we are all aware. Some of it was also alluded to by Aryan, I think, on the inflation, for example, being very low, growth, being very robust, the financial institutions, the corporates, the government balance sheets, being very healthy vis-a-vis, some of the other countries, government balance sheets, the policies that we have in place, the institutions that we have, whether, it's in terms of the inflation, monetary policy, inflation targeting, the policy that we have, for Forex, the reforms that are being undertaken continuously by the government. A number of them, I can mention as a result of which we are better placed than some of the other economies. That can be, a topic in itself. Yeah. Thank you. We do meet, before this, before the monetary policy, and the ceasefire, to some extent, has been taken into account. The whole implications, we'll come to know. But the ceasefire has been taken into account in our in the monetary policy decision. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. With your permission, sir, we will now conclude this press conference. I would like to thank you, sir, and our top management for patiently answering all the questions and for making this interaction so engaging and interactive. I also thank all members of the media for their participation and wish you all a pleasant day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.